Waves hit the sides of the ship. Out here in the ocean, the fog of the creeping death wasn't as high as it was on land, but the signs were still there. Wisps of fog danced across the water of the ocean surface. A wave would roil up and engulf it, only for the wisps to still be there once the sea settled. The water itself acted strangely after the rise of the fog. It was 1492, and on land the livestock were dead, fish had died out not long after, and the rivers may as well be mud. Out here, the water still looked mostly like water, but it felt thicker to sail through, harder to manoeuvre in, and it moved more sluggishly than you would expect. The captains of a few ships who had set sail to find clean land, uncorrupted by the fog, had gathered here to discuss their adventures. Each one had found nothing but the fog in all directions, from the coasts of England to the ports of Europe, from as far north as Norway to the furthest south any of them had sailed. So, in order to survive, the ships began to meet each other on the waves. Many had set out with livestock of their own, supplies, salted meat, ship's biscuits, barrels of water and wine, mead and other easily preservable supplies. In many respects, the situation on the waves seemed to be better than that which had befallen anyone on land, but that was only the case until those supplies ran out. So, with the fog in all directions, supplies on the mainland harder to find and no clear way of gaining more, the captains devised a solution. The early part of the 1400s had begun as the Age of Exploration, and with it the caravels were designed for fast travel among the waves, cargo holds for supplies to last a year's exploration, small crews and lantern sails to enable them to sail windward. Other explorers found the carrack to be a more favoured vessel with its square sails for greater surface area and a larger payload for cargo. It also came with the added protection of high platforms front and back, which offered a better firing position on attackers. A few of these such vessels had been lashed together now. There were two small cogs, single-masted sailing ships, held by rope bridges to the sides of a carrack, which in turn was joined to a caravel by the same means. Held together, the ships floated like a small town upon the waves. Other smaller ships had been dismantled by the crews and built up to escape the fog, while the mass of vessels still had a sail or two and could drift in a breeze. They were no longer truly sailable. The caravel and carrack were built upwards and outwards, now resembling the sort of floating castle rather than a sailing ship. When trade was needed with another such floating township, one of the cogs would detach and act as a runner and envoy. In the time of the creeping death, the Age of Exploration had become the Age of the Sea Kings, lords of the biggest ship around, which these small makeshift floating towns of sometimes up to 40 sailors were constructed around. This set of vessels had become known by its crew and the other nearby ship towns as Pig Harbour, due to its population of pig livestock that it had been able to breed despite low supplies. A half-day's sail north was Wheat Sail and Barley Moor, and to the west floated Shot Fort, known for its supply of cannons and shot, though that may change soon if the pirate raids lead to the supply for which it earned its name running out. Yes, the creeping death had ended the Age of Exploration and begun the Age of Sea Kings, but it had also ushered in the Age of the Doom Pirate. These were doom companies from the mainland setting sail to reap the bounties of the waves, and it was one such doom ship that had been spotted on the horizon of Pig Harbour only a few hours ago. Now, with no cannons to aid it, as they had run dry a few raids ago, and the cog sent to Shotport was due to return later that evening, the sailors of Pig Harbour made ready to defend themselves with arrows, bolts and swords. In the distance, the cannons of the doom ship began to fire and shattered great holes in the side of Pig Harbour, but after the first volley they had realised that the floating township had no such cannons to answer for itself. So, they had stopped firing in order to not risk sinking the supplies aboard. Longbows loosed across the waves between each vessel, and many sailors died on both ships. Pig Harbour was made of far larger vessels than its assailant, but the doomed ship's hull brimmed with fierce-looking warriors. Before long, a boarding action had taken place. Huge brutes, hulking warriors in armour plate carrying axes and hammers were the first to board. They broke down sails, smashed ladders and floorboards, and sent the defenders toppling from makeshift ramparts or falling below decks to their deaths. These brutes were a mighty force of nature. Like the wrath of the waves themselves had come to claim Pig Harbour, and they smashed defence and defender alike. Hooded figures rained down arrows, and fast-moving scavengers ransacked the decks of Pig Harbour. Before long, the tide of battle had turned in favour of the attackers and their brutal assault. But then the knight who had crowned himself Lord of Pig Harbour after he himself had claimed it from the original captain strode forth in an attempt to repel the invaders. This knight was a flurry of blades, his shield held strong even against the crushing blows of hammers wielded by the brute. Two swordsmen joined their lord on the decks, and battle ensued between the knight, his two fighter companions, and the three brutes who were bringing Pig Harbour low with axe and hammer blow. The fighting was fierce, and the knight and his companions began to struggle against the brute's force and ferocity. Slowly, great hammer blows began to buckle their armour. The knight's shield crumpled. Discarding it into the sea, he found himself cornered by a brute. He slashed at the massive man, but though his sword strikes would have slain another lesser man, this massive muscle and armour merely staggered slightly before bringing his mighty hammer down and crushing the knight's chest in his armour. And so, with the last of the knight's men fallen, the brutes had taken Pig Harbour, and with it the spoils of war, a height to escape the fog, and supplies enough to keep them alive for a few months more. Brutes are the strongest warriors available to your Doom companies. They are durable with a defense rating of 3+ and a vitality of 7, so they are some of the toughest Doom warriors to bring low. They also carry with them devastating two-handed weapons and are capable of making 2 attacks per activation. However, once per game they can also fly into a rage, moving twice their normal movement of 3 to rain down 3 attacks on an enemy Doom warrior. Another once per game ability, the brutes are capable of smashing doors, ladders, improvised bridges and resource caches, either to deny the enemy vital supplies or cause their Doom warriors to fall to their deaths from precarious positions. When contesting the high ground, a brute can even throw another Doom warrior up to 2 inches in any direction, ignoring barriers to throw an enemy model from high walls and secure your victory. Though brutes may be strong and durable, they lack skill in opening supply caches, are slow moving and only have a combat rating of 4+, so to include one in your Doom company is to provide it vital muscle at the risk of being a slower moving, less skillful force. Will you be including brutes in your Doom companies? Let me know in the comments below, and to discover more of the world of 1490 Doom, click the video link to your left to discover a more skillful warrior, the Saboteur. Alternatively, you may want to listen to some longer form content, and you can find this at the playlist link to your left to discover the Feel No Paint podcast. Please like, subscribe, share a favourite video with a friend, or become a channel member. For discounts on your hobby supplies, check out my affiliate links below, and thank you for watching. I'll see you all soon.